Welcome one, welcome all. It is the NFC East Mixtape, the greatest crossover presented to you in the history of all crossovers. You can hear us on the Blog of the Boys Podcast Network, SB Nation's home for Dallas Cowboys content, the Bleeding Green Nation Podcast Network, SB Nation's home for Philadelphia Eagles content, Hogs Haven, where you can get Washington Commanders content, or Big Blue View, where you can get New York Giants content. We are truly unique in that you can hear us in each of these four specific places. I say we. I am RJ Ochoa from Blog of the Boys. He is Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation. You can also see our beautiful faces on the Bleeding Green Nation or Blog of the Boys YouTube channels. Brandon, it's going to be a fun week for us.
RJ, what song is stuck in your head right now?
I actually think you're going to hate my answer. I really don't want to give you the answer, actually.
Let's hear it.
Well,
that's the point of the podcast, like talking about things.
So there is an effect. So I've been talking a lot about TikTok and Instagram Reels in our like work environments, and I've been like putting an emphasis on those things. And so there's a really popular sound effect right now on TikTok. People use the song "Angel Eyes" by ABBA. You ever heard this song before?
I mean, maybe, but I can't think of it.
It's really old, but it's like a mixed version. It's kind of like faster. It sounds kind of like Alvin and the Chipmunks singing it. And
you did just see Chippendales, right?
But the effect or the trend is you thinking about something that has happened a long time ago that you need to let go already. The last one I actually saw was a guy in a Dolphins jersey, and the sound effect was on, and like the caption said, "Why are you still thinking about a random running back? It's been 5 years already." And then it cut to highlights of Jay Ajayi. So like that's the whole thing. So that song is stuck in my head from that trending effect. So that's my answer.
For me, it is also a remix. Funny enough, it is the Stranger Things season 4 trailer music. For some reason, I think I was listening to the Kate Bush song. I'm not going to spoil the show. Obviously, there's a Kate Bush song involved in season 4. It's the one where it's a key part of the. I don't want to spoil it, but it's a key part. You definitely would recognize it if you heard it, RJ. But anyway, I came up with like related songs, and the trailer music, which is a remix of Journey's "Separate Ways," and it's like really epic. It's great. I've been listening to it all day. It's such a good, like, you can listen to the remix and like just know this was built for a trailer just because of like the dramatic music. I wish it could be the intro to this pod. Honestly, I really like it.
You very, very famously gave us the actual Stranger Things theme song last week. Can you do it again?
Well, we got DMCA'd, I think, because it was too close to the real thing, so I can't do it again.
But it was obviously a very good impersonation. I mentioned I was rewatching season 3 last week. Shout out to the incomparable Seamus, just like kind of like Kobe, just one word, Seamus, who told me that he rewatched all of seasons 1 through 3 in a week, which I thought was pretty incredible. So I did start season 4. I'm still on the very first episode. As you know, they're kind of beefy, so they take a little bit of time to get through. But so we're here to talk about the NFC East. Shockingly, that would not be understood if you paid attention to the first 3 minutes, I guess.
It's the off season, baby.
We're
off the script.
So we have a few off script things to get to. But before we do, I mentioned it's an interesting week. BLG and I both have some traveling that is going to be happening over the course of the next few weeks, so we will not be able to handle any sort of breaking news. And we'll be straight up with you. So this episode, Brandon, we're recording on Tuesday, June 7th, a little bit later than we wanted to, actually. This is dropping on Wednesday the 8th. This Thursday, the 9th, we're going to record the episode for next week. And then we'll also record the following week's episode a few days early as well. So, trying to make things happen because we love the NFC East Mixtape listeners, and we want to make sure that they're properly fed and properly taken care of. You know what I mean?
I don't know if you want to tell people where you're going, RJ, but for me, I need people's help here. I'm a man of the people, as everyone says, and I'm going to San Diego, where the home of my Chargers. Once upon a time, maybe I'll see Justin Herbert when I'm there. Probably not, because he's probably not there.
Literally no reason to see him there, right? Mm-hmm.
He's just feeling really nostalgic for a team he didn't even play for, and he's going to be there. He's like a surfer guy. I feel like he could be out there surfing. Anyway, West Coast guy. Anyway, going to go to San Diego. So if you happen to live there or have been there, you have any good recommendations, you can hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at Brandon Gowton. I always, big food guy, obviously. So let me know if you like any food spots. But beyond that, everyone says the zoo. So don't just like say the zoo, because I've heard of that before.
Or fish tacos, because you're going to San Diego, right? Like
fish tacos is big. Carne asada fries are like really big there. That's like the top thing. So those are all great. But like obviously In-N-Out, I want to try for the first time because I've never had it.
You've never had it? Interesting.
Okay. I've just never had the opportunity to. Like, I've never been close to an In-N-Out. I've been on the West Coast before, but that was more like Pacific Northwest, not necessarily prime In-N-Out country, or at least we didn't come across any when I was out there. So if you have any recommendations, I would appreciate them. Okay,
well, so you're heading to San Diego. I am not. I am heading to Oklahoma. First trip with the baby, see some family. It's a few days trip, obviously, because you got to drive a long distance with a 6-month-old. Just take some time. So I don't have any In-N-Outs that I'll be visiting, although there will be some along the way. I don't know if you know this. There are several In-N-Outs throughout Texas. Who knows? You never
Those
know.
Those are like the closest ones to me here on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
You never know where the open road will take you. I did want to say one thing before I got to the other one thing before the actual episode. When you were asking about songs, I was going to ask you, what is a song that, if you think of it, you specifically think not of the song, but of like a scene from a movie or a TV show? Because I have the right answer.
Okay, then why don't you go first?
So my answer is the song "Come Sail Away" by Styx. I don't even think about the song when I hear it, obviously. I think about the season, but also series finale to Freaks and Geeks, a show that you were on. Seth Rogen was on that show. And so the kids are at the dance. Very kind of Stranger Things vibe Freaks and Geeks had. So I think of that scene when they're... actually, I don't know if it was the finale. I don't know. But whatever. I think of that episode. Everybody knows the episode I'm talking about. So do you have a moment that you think of with a certain song?
This is like a very kind of Tarantino lending question, because obviously, there's a lot of good pairings in his movies. I don't actually remember the song though, but whatever the one is when he's like looking for the weapons in the thrift or whatever the store that was, and he gets like the samurai sword, that's probably one, but I can't remember the song. So that kind of goes against that. Maybe one that I do remember is "The Times They Are A-Changin'" by one Bob Dylan in Watchmen, in the beginning of that movie, when someone is fighting the comedian. That one sticks out to me.
Okay. Good answer. Okay, so the actual one last thing to get to before today's show, and today's subject was inspired by Brandon. Actually, the next two were BLG doing some heavy lifting around here.
And the last two?
Right.
And the 50 before that?
I said you were doing some... That's not true. But...
the listeners don't know that.
Well, speaking of the listeners, you said that you're men of the people. We're men of the people. That could actually be the name of the show, Men of the People. I want to extend, just personally, some heartfelt gratitude for all of the times I was tagged on Twitter, Instagram, and yes, Brandon, even TikTok, during the video. Like, I don't think we have to say it. Like, the video. Actually, there were two. But
you definitely have to say it.
The Russell Wilson videos. There were so many people who asked, "Please do this on the mixtape." Please, some of the best responses were like, "What is this? Is Russell Wilson doing an RJ Ochoa impersonation?" Like those are some of the best. I know that they were in your mentions too. What a weird phenomenon that we have inspired here on the mixtape. Is this Russell Wilson kind of niche level of fandom?
RJ is wearing his orange shirt.
We in the orange, baby. We in the orange. We in the orange. That was honestly the dumbest line to me. Like, of all the things he said, what does that mean? We in the orange. Like, when you're wearing your white or navy jersey, are you less in the orange? Like, are you less cool? Just wow. But okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Russ is a meme. You always talk about like becoming the meme or being the meme. Russ is just—he's not a person. He's transcended human being existence to just being a meme. He's
actually a comedian because he blends with like the meme that he needs to be at any particular moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he's corporate meme, he's player meme, he's locker room meme, he's like on field meme. He is a comedian. That is what Russell Wilson is.
He is interview on the SB Nation NFL show with stats meme as well. He does it all.
So I promised people that I would do the impersonation, but it is a two-part play.
What?
Well, because the main video that because there was the one where he was with Jerry Judy and Cortland Sutton. That's where he said, "We in the orange, baby." Got my jersey on. But anyway, the main video was the Broncos country Let's Ride. But Brandon, the part that I'm asking you to play and that every listener's joy rides on you playing, unless if you don't agree to this, then it doesn't happen. Is I don't know if it was like, coordinator, director, producer, like on the other side of the camera that was like, one more time. She's given him the instruction on what to do. So you have to fill that role, and I will be Russell Wilson if you're down for this.
Of course. Yeah, we can't let the listeners down.
I want you to know, though, I specifically did wear this shirt for this episode because
I know that. I know. Of course. How could you not?
Okay. I mean, we in the orange. So, okay. You need to tell me action. And then I'm going to shoot several versions of Broncos Country Let's Ride. And then you got to kind of just coach me through that. And then we'll land this plane together. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Okay. So why not? In 3, 2, action.
Broncos Country Let's Ride.
All right. One more time.
Broncos Country Let's Ride.
I like that one, but let's do it one more time.
Broncos Country Let's Ride.
Why not one more time?
Are you? If you can give me like, what kind of energy are you looking for? Because I need to harness like that. Like
I need one more time.
You want to be like the fighter. I need
one more time.
Broncos Country. That's right.
You nailed it, Russ. You got it.
That's the thing. Russ. He nails things. And me, I'm just a piece in the play that is Russell Wilson. There's Russ and then there's Russell, and when the two of them come together, it's like the Milky Way. It's a universe, and it's a universe of agony in one way, but also beauty and joy and pride. And I love to live at the center of that universe. In my mind, I'm always constantly harnessing what it means to be a champion. And I think that you can be a champion in multiple universes. I was a champion in the universe of Seattle, and now I'm a champion in business and entertainment and hopefully theater and film and television. And I'm so inspired. And so I don't know, it's just Broncos country. That's right.
It's such a crime that Russ is not in the NFC East. Like, we're being robbed of even more. I mean, we're doing pretty great, getting as much as content as we are out of him.
We've got our fill, certainly, on Russ content. But yeah, what a time. See, I actually think the Broncos are in on the meme too. Like, there's no way they share that specific clip unless they're they're just steering into the skid at this point.
It was kind of awkward too. Just like. It was, I don't know. If I'm a Broncos fan, do I look at that and be like, yeah, I'm fired up. Russ is on the team. It's just like, oh, this is like kind of weird. And he really is cheesy, which is fine. Again,
I've never realized how awkward the word Broncos is. Because the in the middle is such like it's like a harsh syllable. You know what I mean? Like the Bronc. There was something not like Go Hawks ended on that. You know what I mean? But the Bronc, it's a gross sound. It's hard to do.
Shout out to the Rider Bronx. Where that's BRO, so Broncos without the O. That's the college mascot for the team of the town I grew up in New Jersey.
The O, like the O, or like the multiple O's?
Like they took out the final O, so it's just Bronx instead of Broncos. They're just Bronx.
I would think that Bronx would also have like a K, like BRON.
No, and it's not like New York, like the Bronx with an X.
Oh, dude, and you're so close there, like proximity wise, huh? Interesting. Okay.
Is it?
Well, I hope that lived up. I knew it was gonna be hard to live up to people's expectations. So, okay. The actual NFC East subject today, Brandon, tell us what it is.
We should just do a show one time where we're like, all right, we have a show for you today, and then we don't talk about it at all.
Honestly, that's kind of what this is.
It's called every episode.
That's a little of what this is.
People like the banter. It's fine. But anyway, yeah, the premise, the concept for this show is, if you had a vial of true serum and you were able to inject it into, and obviously, it's not harming anyone. It's just no physical pain. It's just you're trying to get the truth.
Not like the end of season 3 of Stranger Things, where Steve and
wow, spoiler.
Hey, I mean, you haven't seen season 3 at this point. I mean, that's on you. That's not me.
Anyway, Yeah, so who would you kind of inject it into, and then what would you ask them is kind of the premise. And we can, I don't think we have to limit ourselves necessarily to one if we have multiple good premises here, and it's our podcast, so we can make the rules. But I thought this would be kind of an interesting activity because don't you want to do this? Like, don't you want to be
Yeah.
able to ask some of these people just like that one question that like you feel like how they would respond, but they can't because of certain optics that they have to maintain in public, and obviously many times when coaches and GMs are on the podium, they can't say how they truly feel, but you like suspect or maybe how they feel in reality. So I would like to just be able to get the truth and get it on the record.
Okay. Do you want me to go first? Do you go first? This is your idea. Like, I don't want to take your thunder. Like,
Why don't I go first then, since it is my idea?
Selfish. Wow. Okay.
And we'll start with the Eagles because why not? And wow, is that a snore? It sounded like a different noise.
I don't know.
Sound like a static noise.
Howie Roseman, he texts me. He reminds me all the time. Almost drafted me in 2012. Gotta say I'm grateful. Everything works out for a reason, and now I'm here. Broncos country. That's right. So.
And the biggest obvious question with the Eagles is like, is Jalen Hurts really the guy? And I want to know, so I'm probably maybe into Jeffrey Lurie is who I'm injecting this truth serum into, because he's ultimately the one making the decision. And he's the one who like was reportedly behind the Jalen Hurts pick, which was significant, obviously, like him being his backer. And I think obviously Lurie likes a lot of the tangibles and things about him. But at the same time, Jeffrey Lurie, under the ownership of his team, and he has basically said outright, like he is obsessed with having like an elite passing offense, an elite quarterback, and Jalen Hurts has not been those things to this point. And even the best version of Jalen Hurts, I don't know if he looks like that. So I really want to know like to what extent he believes in them, and kind of branching out into that. I also want to know like how annoyed maybe Jeffrey Lurie was / Howie Roseman, because I've gotten the sense that Howie Roseman was annoyed that he couldn't get a meeting with Deshaun Watson, even not necessarily saying they were definitely going to trade for him if he would greenlight the trade to Philly, but they had the ammo for it, and I want to know what they would have given up to get him. So kind of on Hurts and Watson is my thing.
I think those are very fair questions, and I think those are more applicable to the like current state of the Eagles, which is fine. I approach this exercise more from like an existential one.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's
right.
whatever scope. It doesn't have to be current.
But if you're like, here's the thing. Like, I actually, in hindsight, think we should have limited it to a number of questions. But because if you have to ask a Jalen Hurts question, I don't know that I would. I mean, you would know better than me, but I wouldn't burn it on Jeffrey Lurie. I would burn it on Howie. Like, my question about that would be like, how much do you really believe in him? Like again, this like we're talking like truth serum. If it isn't obvious, like these people have to give their like ultimately like purely honest opinions. I would love to ask Howie Roseman like, where do you think Jalen Hurts ranks in the NFL? Because like I don't think he thinks it's that high. But I think he's smart enough to realize the like cost benefit analysis towards like keeping him at this moment in time. But I would love to hear him frankly say I think he's probably like the 20th best quarterback in the NFL on a good day. And we're fine adjusting around that. We acknowledge the division we play in is not that difficult. We're still somewhat sort of rebuilding. That would be my question for Howie Roseman. Like if I have to ask a Jalen Hurts specific question, but I have other questions to be clear.
I would also, for not looking at current, I would also be like, do you regret not keeping Nick Foles? Because I feel like
or Doug Peterson.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they regret that one. I would be surprised if they said yes, but definitely Hurts definitely Foles, because I don't think they do actually, especially because I mean, you look at what Nick Foles has been.
Well, he's with Frank Reich now, and if Matt Ryan goes down, then they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Right. Oh, it's just different when he plays in Philly, is what basically everyone says. And I'm not trying to disparage Nick Foles, but like, I just don't know how you can ignore him being benched for Gardner Minshew and Mitchell Trubisky and being like, well, it would have been totally different here. Like, that's a little too much cognitive dissonance for me. Another one that I wrote down here, RJ, because I wrote down multiple ones, was, and I guess this is for Lurie. Do you feel like Nick Sirianni gives the Eagles an edge? First of all, do you even really care about that? Because it seems to me like, I don't think they really care about the coach a ton, which is a weird thing to say. But I think, looking at like Doug and Sirianni, I think they just want a guy basically that they can control and not necessarily be like a total puppet, but they certainly want the coach to be like very limited in scope as opposed to Chip Kelly or let's say I don't know who's another like Matt Rule, one of these coaches who like really run the show and aren't just a coach. I feel like they don't really think coach matters as much as a lot of other teams do. So but beyond that, even just the importance of him, I want to know what they feel like is special about Nick Sirianni. And not just like, he's a great locker room guy, but actually, like in game day and that kind of stuff. Or if that's the edge, the locker room thing is the answer, then that's fine. I don't really agree with that, but that's fine. Because I think I've really never been like super pro Sirianni or like really anti Sirianni. I really haven't been at any point. I kind of lean more positive than negative because I just don't think he is super important, like ultimately in the big picture here in this organization. And I don't think he is anything to like feel super strongly about. That's part of it.
Who is better at their respective job, like relative to the field, Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts?
I think it's close. I think they're like similar.
I think it's Nick Sirianni.
I think it could be Sirianni. I'd probably if I have to pick between the two, I'd say Sirianni. But like, I don't think I think he's fine, totally fine head coach. But I don't think he's like special or anything, and doesn't necessarily matter. I don't know that you necessarily need a special head coach to win a Super Bowl as much as you need a special quarterback. But I guess another part of this question is. It's multiple questions within a question, but like, would you go after an elite head coach if they were available? Like, let's say the Eagles are kind of like disappointing this year. Let's say they go, I don't know, 8-9. Are they going after Sean Payton? Because they've been interested to be rumored at him in the past. Would they make that move?
It would be Nnamdi Asomugha and Sean Payton. Dudes the Cowboys wanted that the Eagles got. Same results, obviously. Yeah, or like something I've thought about too, like along those lines. This is a difference, but like, what if like everybody's like, oh yeah, the Seahawks are going to move on from Pete Carroll. What if Pete Carroll wants to coach? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is there nobody who would take Pete Carroll? You know what I mean? Like,
there's a team. There's definitely a
that's
team.
what I'm saying. Like, and I'm not like advocating for Pete Carroll, but like he would be kind of Mike McCarthy-ish. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like the lure, I think when McCarthy was making his rounds. Yeah, that's a very good question. You have obviously the better ones when it comes to the Eagles. I have a few kind of like ones I'll blitz through. Nick Sirianni. I mean, like now that we're here, I just have to like, is the visor highlighter thing authentic or or like I have to know, you know what I mean? Like I can't not ask at this point in time. I would love to ask Jalen Reagor, who do you blame the most? Like if you have to blame somebody, who do you blame the most for the way your career has gone with the Philadelphia Eagles? Like who do you think he would say?
I would say like the coaching staff or something.
No, I need one person. I want you like what single person?
I mean, the Doug Peterson, because apparently the coaching staff argued to draft him, and I don't know, maybe he wishes he wasn't drafted as high because, I mean, not actually, because you make more money when you're drafted higher, but just in terms of expectation, I don't know.
If we allowed him to answer a group of people, so like the coaching staff qualifies, do you think that I'm talking seriously, he would be like Eagles fans?
But yeah, possibly, for sure. Yeah.
Ben Simmons knows a thing or two.
I don't think you would be very reflective, is my point.
I would love to ask Jason Kelsey how much of your outward personality is like part of I don't want to say the bit of like playing in Philadelphia, but like leaning into again, I'm not like saying he's inauthentic, but like how much
he really isn't. Yeah.
No, I know, but like how much of you is outgoing even more so because of the market you play in? Like because if he's this exact same, and again, I'm not doubting like his authenticity, but if he's this same exact person for the Jaguars or the Vikings, like it does not have the same effect. Like maybe he regresses, you know what I mean? Like and is a little bit more inward. So like how much of the place you play for like has that riled up or accentuated or accented who you are and like the way you kind of operate publicly? I would like to know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably part of it's like just being in the city or like being around this culture and him being influenced by it. Him being here since 2011, 2012 now, for 10 years. Like, you move to a different city, you're probably going to ingratiate yourself at some level and kind of take on that culture. So yeah, I think that's part of it.
Okay. The last one I would ask would be to I guess Jeff Lurie, and it would be, how does it feel to have the Dallas Cowboys live rent free in your mind? So that'd be my.
That's really sad.
Okay, let's move on. But before we keep these questions up, I have one for you. I just saw, Brandon. It is Tuesday night, at least. It is Dollar Dog Night at Minute Maid Park for the Houston Astros. And they've asked people, could you eat 9 hot dogs in 9 innings?
Easily.
But like,
not even a question.
But hang on, you have to eat 1 per inning, so you can't just like load up on 5 and then like sit for a little while. Like you think you could?
Absolutely, easily, definitely.
How do you dress your dog?
It depends. I mean, if it's a dollar dog like that, then I'm not putting anything on it. So I'm trying to get them all down.
Oh, dude, gross! Like you got to have at least a ketchup or something.
Yeah, but I'm saying like if I'm trying to make sure I do it, I don't want to add extra stuff like that makes it more challenging. But like if we're talking about just a regular setting, not a ketchup guy. Either Chicago. Shout out Chicago. They don't do ketchup there. I really like the Chicago dog, to be honest. I think that is what, like, the spirit of that is what a hot dog should be. Because, you just get a hot dog and maybe you put ketchup or whatever on it, and it's just not enough. Or maybe you get 2. It's just not, but it feels like not as fulfilling as it should be. Whereas the Chicago dog has the pickle spear on it, has the tomato, has the celery salt, has the sport peppers, has the onions on there. I think there's mustard on there. It has all that, and it just works together. It feels very like satisfying and fulfilling, and it's like, wow, this was like an actual meal item as opposed to like I'm still hungry.
Okay.
A cheese dog is also really good, by the way.
Brats are better than hot dogs. Like hot dogs in general, kind of meh. You know what I mean?
I generally agree with that.
On back to your West Coast subject. Speaking of the Astros, I saw their first game back at Dodger Stadium after they won the World Series there, and I've had a Dodger dog. Not that big of a deal. Like just whatever.
Real Jason Bateman, you are.
Right. Let's go to the Commanders.
You know what that means. You definitely know the reference.
I really don't. But my dog's barking in the background, so I'm a little bit distracted by that. Let's move to the Commanders. We'll save the Cowboys. I don't know if you saw this, Brandon. I'm reading a tweet from George Wallace that came out on Monday. The Commanders announced game themes for the upcoming year, including recognizing the Hogs and the unveiling of a new mascot in Week 17. We have to wait all the way until Week 17 for the mascot. The team says there will be a season-long fan engagement to help select the mascot. Oh, that totally went well last time. Details later this summer. Other highlights include the debut of the marching band and revamped fight song on August 13th, homecoming weekend, because it's high school all of a sudden, against the Packers, totally going to win that game, on October 30th, a blackout game against the Vikings on November 6th, and a whiteout game against the Cowboys in the finale. So stands to reason the Cowboys will be wearing navy that particular day. My question would be to Jason Wright, how much do you really put in, like how much thought do you really put into this? Like, because it's clearly not a lot. And I think that he is, I don't like want to tear him down, but I think he gets a lot of credit. And I think by not being Dan Snyder, you get a lot of credit. But I mean, like, I think he's really bad at this job. Like all this stuff is so lame. I mean, and people act like it's like and I realize the bar is really low there. But it's not great.
What was the name of the guy who tweeted that out again? You said something.
I moved on. I'm looking for it again so you can have it. It was George Wallace at G.
Do you think
Wallace
he's related
WTO.
to William Wallace?
I don't know. Do you want to know?
Okay. Anyway, yeah. So that's your question. It's funny because I think we're all in a similar theme here for Washington. It's not.
It's just like why? We don't wanna, like why? Why are you the way you are? Sort of thing. Right.
Well, it's bigger picture, right? It's not like we're asking Ron Rivera about like Terry McLaurin. Like, who cares? Like, that doesn't matter. Like, that's not really a needle mover. It's more about like the bigger picture of the franchise. Although I do want to ask Ron Rivera if I guess one question, and I'd be like, do you really think you're going to be the team to face Carson Wentz, and why do you think that? Like, I need him to answer that to me with true serum. Point. Like, it's insane. We've talked about this point like a million times. Everyone brings it up, but it's crazy. It is insane how two teams have moved on from him, and you're like, no, we got this. Like, we definitely are going to make this work. Like, what would make you think that?
I would love to ask Ron Rivera, and let me be very clear here, that I'm talking about things that are not crimes, and there are obviously some that are, that, this franchise is accused of, but so like of the like memeable things that have happened, and because there's a lot of those too, which one are you the most embarrassed by? Because obviously, again, like if we're like being real, there are like life-altering things to be embarrassed and humiliated by when it comes to this franchise, and in no way am I trying to make light of that. But as far as like, the benches thing, fighting on the benches, like stuff like that, like what are you the most embarrassed by? Like what would the answer even be?
So along these lines, my second of two questions I've written down for Washington is for Tanya Snyder, Dan Snyder's wife. And the question is very simple. Are you proud of your husband?
I mean, like I don't even know that we would have a long list of questions for Dan Snyder. Like if we're lumping him in here, because again, it would just be like, why? It would be like what are you ashamed of yourself? Like like that would be my. Actually, if we're really asking questions, I would love to ask like, how much is the NFL supporting you? Like how much are the owners and Commissioner Goodell allegedly, hypothetically, potentially supporting you? Like how much of this are you not responsible for, or as far as the cover up or whatever is concerned?
I do think it's a low key concern that like he is going to get kicked out, and that'd be really bad really good for Washington fans. Really bad potentially. It's no guarantee an owner comes in and they're great, but they're going to be better than Dan Snyder. Basically, like there's a very good chance whoever buys that team and takes over, even if they're like still dumb and aren't great, they're going to be better than Dan Snyder.
Yeah, I mean he's weighing them down like in every sense.
It can't get worse.
Is there anything I would love to ask? I don't know who we direct this question to. Like that's part of the mystery of this team. But like, do you regret letting Kirk Cousins walk? I know that you would laugh at that, but like that's a legitimate question. It's like when you look at what's happened to them.
Well, I mean, it wasn't just up to them though. Like he wanted to leave.
Do you regret the way that whole thing was handled? Like, do you regret not paying him, more like up front, instead of letting things draw and stretch out the way that they did to the point that they became untenable with Kirk as well? I think the answer has to be yes. And I would love to know, do you regret the RG3 trade? Like the answer has to be yes, doesn't it? Like, was it really worth the 2012 division title? No.
I mean, it's easy to say that with hindsight. I think the process of the trade wasn't terrible in terms of like if RG3 never gets hurt, and he did, so that's the hindsight.
Maybe you regret rushing him back or letting him rush himself.
Yeah, back I think there's a world where they don't, and obviously a world where he's in a better, more stable environment. That because I think his ego got out of control too after his rookie season. So I think there's a world where like that trade looks good. It wasn't like a total foolish trade from the jump.
Do you remember who Washington played in week 1 of the 2013 season that he came back for? Remember, it was like, all this, he going to miss any time, blah, blah, coming back.
It was the Eagles. It was Chip Kelly's debut.
I know. Okay, I was making sure you remember. Do you remember the T-shirt that RG3 was wearing?
Was it like his logo, his shield thing?
It wasn't, but it was like part of. It's ironic. I'll tell you that right now, especially given everything that happened.
Do I remember the shirt that RG3 was wearing 9 years ago? No, I don't.
Well, that's your fault. It said Operation Patience on it. I'm serious. What's more is he was fined $10,000 for it because this was back. Not that the NFL's loosened uniform, stickling like that, but or being sticklers for it rather. But they were much worse, which is impossible to believe, but they were. So they fined him $10,000. But yeah, his whole thing was Operation Patience because he was supposedly being patient in his recovery, which we obviously know that he wasn't. I would love to ask Jason Wright. I mean, I want to go back to that. Do you regret the way you handled Sean Taylor's retirement, like his jersey retirement? Like the answer to that has to be yes. But I would love to know why. Like I would love to know, what do you regret about that specifically?
Right. What would you have done differently? And like, how did it happen? Like, why did all those how did those things happen? How were they allowed to happen? What was like, how would you fix it if you could do it again? Like to make sure that those things didn't happen. And we've talked about that before. But for those people who, for some reason, don't know what I'm talking about, it's just, they put like his family in front of like porta potties to pose for a picture, and there's just like a lot of messed up things.
And they let people, they had like rope, they had painted 21 on the field, like on the sidelines, like the corners of them, and they had roped them off, but then let people stand on them, including Patrick Mahomes' brother, which led to like a whole thing. That's the other thing too. Like they picked like. Again, this goes back to like high school homecoming. You pick a game that you think you're gonna win, right? Like that's the whole point, right? Like we want to everyone wants to enjoy the dance and have a good time. So like, why are you picking the Packers game as homecoming this year? Why did you pick the Chiefs game last year to like retire Sean Taylor's jersey? Like it's just dumb. So, hey, it is what it is. Okay, ready for the Giants, and we'll save the Cowboys.
I want to take a quick break, RJ, because I know you love me throwing the break
Look,
when we're on
I'm going to take a break.
Like,
We're going to take a break, but the YouTube audience is not going to understand that. So this is just for the podcast audience. We're taking a break right now. Okay, Brandon. You're lying to the YouTube audience, but what did you do during the break?
well, that's the thing. This is the incentive to watch the YouTube, so you don't have to worry about the break. So it's just a little, it's a bonus. But, you have to include all the audiences here. So during the break, I actually knitted a scarf in the middle of
Do you know
summer.
how to knit? For real?
No, I don't. My grandma does. Shout out to my grandma.
Shout out to your grandma. Question before we get back to this. I'm going to be driving a lot, obviously, as mentioned. You're going to be, I imagine there's a flight involved to San Diego.
I will not be walking to San Diego or driving, yes.
Well, I would walk, is it 500 miles?
500 miles.
Yeah. What is like the ideal road trip snack for both a flight and a car ride? So like okay, let's focus on the flight part. So because it can be something that you can like pack up, as you're walking from like terminal to terminal. It doesn't have to be something you specifically eat on one plane ride.
So I'm a big food guy, but I'm also a big anxiety guy. So I'm not like necessarily I'm fine once I get on the plane. I'm not one of these people that gets nervous about flying so much as I get nervous about TSA. I would just feel like I'm going to do something wrong somehow, even though I am not, and I'm totally fine. I just feel I'm really stressed out.
Recorded conversation, NSA. He's not a threat, just so you know.
Or once I get just the anxiety of not being able to find my gate. Once I get to my gate and I'm there, I'm totally fine. But I just all that stress, I have a hard time eating because I'm just too focused. And also I don't want to have to use the bathroom on the flight. I don't want to do that. So I don't want to eat if I'm going to eat anything because it's a longer flight or I didn't eat at all. Just something light to hold me over.
I've got the answer for you.
Cheez-Its came to mind for me.
Nah, it's the wrong answer. The right answer is not a pretzel, but you ever get the cup of pretzel bites? You know what I'm talking about?
Sure.
They're like little pretzel nuggets. It's like they take bits of the pretzel. That's your answer right there, baby. You're welcome.
Pretzels are good. Not opposed to it.
But not the crunchy ones. A soft pretzel. Soft
what
pretzel
about,
bites.
How do you like the peanut butter pretzels? Like the pretzels that have peanut butter in them? Like the little ones, like the bites, not
look, they're fine. Okay, here's the thing.
A good one.
This is a different take that I'm kind of workshopping. I think we put peanut butter on too much stuff. I love peanut butter, but I don't think the appeal of it is amazing. I said a little while ago, "Why are you the way that you are?" Like the very famous Office line. I never the Office episode where they have the pretzels. I never have gotten the appeal of that. I've never thought oh man, I wish I had that. I that sounds awful to me. No, but dressed up like that with peanut butter and caramel and whatever. That sounds so terrible to me. That sounds messy. I'm gonna have to wash my hands for 5 minutes after eating that thing. It's not.
I want a savory hot pretzel too, personally.
I want a soft pretzel, and I want it maybe dipped in cinnamon powder, sugary powder. That's what I want.
So. Yeah, people like the cinnamon sugar pretzel. To me, I just give me the salt. But they do other fun things like the pepperoni pretzel. I just need the salt. Auntie Anne's classic. You go to the mall, hot summer day. You get the pretzel. You get the lemonade, icy, slushy thing. Just it's a great time.
My question for John Mara, in hindsight, when should you have moved on from Eli Manning?
That's so funny that you picked to choose this. Two of my questions have to do with looking back. I did come up with one for current just because I thought it'd be okay, what could I possibly ask if I had to now? But I have, is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer? Because I want Mara on the record.
No, that's a waste of a question because this goes back to the old Seinfeld trope. The it's not a lie if you believe it. They believe it.
I don't know if he really does. That's the thing.
I totally think he does. But
I don't know.
We disagree. Okay.
I mean, you could be right, and he might say yes anyway. But I think there's a chance. That he doesn't actually believe it. And imagine even if it's a small chance, imagine if he said it, because then is he going in the Hall of Fame if the Giants owner, or maybe he still is, and that's dumb, but I would just love that. I would love the optics of the Giants owner admits that Eli Manning is not a Hall of Famer. That would be great to me.
I would love, this has nothing to do with honesty, but I would love to catch them with something. I would love for them to say at a dinner or something and then be well, so and so's not a Hall of Famer because he doesn't have this. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and then like we could be like, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like, I would love that so much.
We do like player A, player B, and we just
Yeah.
like list the stats,
Like
and they're
player
like,
B
oh
sucks.
yeah,
Yeah, right. And then, but then it would invariably, it would literally be like any argument online. He'd be like, "Yeah, well, Eli has 2 rings." You know, like it would literally like regress to that so quickly. I would love to ask Dave Gettleman, who do you blame the most? I know he's not affiliated with the Giants, but like it's related to the Giants. Like, who do you think the answer is? Is it John Nara? Is
Himself.
is it Dave Gettleman? I would love to ask Dave Gettleman, who do you blame the most? Like, I would love to ask Dave Gettleman, who were you the most wrong on? Imagine how disappointing it would be for him to say
Saquon.
you. But like that is a depressing question when you really think about it.
Mine is still looking back, and it's: are you ready to admit your 2 Super Bowl wins were flukes, especially the 2011 run? Maybe phrase it in a way again so we avoid the issue of they might just believe they weren't. But again, I feel like there's a part of them that knows, especially the 2011 one. Like the first one, I think is a little less fluky, but the second one was just the biggest joke. It's the biggest string of luck I've ever seen, maybe in the NFL.
I agree. I mean, there's a lot of I've done this what if before. I don't know if you remember December 11th of that season, 2011. The Giants were at 18. Well, it was then Cowboy Stadium, and won because Dan Bailey's field goal at the very end of the game was blocked by Jason Pierre-Paul. I don't know if you remember this, and that kept the Giants season alive. And then they beat the Cowboys in the regular season finale. Like that season, that run. There are so many moments that you can point to, like it almost fell off a cliff. You know what I mean? Like it's not just like, oh well, if not for that one thing. Like there are so many moments where it almost happened. Like I tweeted about the Eagles run in somewhat of a joking way last week, and had a lot of Eagles fans in my mentions. But like when I think about the Eagles playoff game specifically in 2017, the only real like sliding doors one like moment is Julio Jones at the very end of the divisional round, because they like beat the tar out of the Vikings in the NFC Championship game, and then the Super Bowl was just like great back and forth. So I think the Giants have a little bit more fluke to them. I'm with you. What do we want to ask Daniel Jones or Saquon? Do you wish that you weren't drafted by this team? Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I mean, it has to
yes.
be like maybe it's like, hey, Daniel Jones, do you wish that you hadn't gone to Duke because that like set you up for this whole path right now? Wow.
The last one I have for a current Giants thing is, to what extent are you concerned about Kayvon Thibodeau's red flags? Because there was stuff that came up in the pre-draft process, and maybe the answer is not at all, but I feel like there might be, something, and maybe it's a little bit. Maybe the answer is like not much, but yeah, we do acknowledge that. I think that's kind of an underrated thing. I think a lot of people were acting like all that stuff was BS and just other teams trying to get him to fall. And I don't really think that's the case. There might be some of that, but it's not like people were making stuff out of thin air to totally just trash him. Like there were some things there. There was a reason he fell a little bit further than expected and wasn't necessarily the number 1 overall pick. So I would want to know about that.
My last somewhat recent question or relevant current day for the Giants is, how much do you really believe that you deserve to win the NFC East in 2020? You know what I mean? But like, right. They must really believe it. Like, there was a lot of faux outrage. And so I would love to know like how wrong.
Oh, 2020. Sorry. I thought you meant this year.
Right. No, 2020. Okay. We're ready to move on to America's team.
So to the Dallas Cowboys.
Wait a minute. You went first for the Eagles. So I get to go first for the Cowboys. Like, let's play
Jerry
the game.
Jones.
Okay. So I would love to ask Stephen Jones. I in a weird way, I'm almost like, I almost don't want to know the answer. You know what I mean? Like it's at that point, but like, there's so many Cowboys fans who will tweet and say things like, this team doesn't care about winning. All they care about is making money. And I have, like, even as upset as I've been with them, like, I can't rationally believe that. But this offseason, they have tested that, like, emotion for me, right? Like, it's easier to believe that than ever. So I would love to ask them that. But, like, I still, like, 97% of me thinks the answer is that, like, oh, yeah, we want to win. But, like, that 3% just, like, lurks in my mind. Like, I would love to ask, like, how much of your attention is devoted on the business of this organization versus the on-field success of this organization. That would be how I would phrase it.
Here is the verbatim what I have written down on my prep sheet question to Jerry Jones. and it is: would you rather the Cowboys be worth double their value moving forward and win no Super Bowls, or drop significantly in value and win the Super Bowl?
Wow, that's a really great one. I don't want to know the answer.
They're worth what, like $5 billion? So like doubling that is like a lot of freaking money. Like that's not a small decision.
That would make you, because they are obviously the most valuable sports franchise in the world. That would make them the most valuable by like more than 100%. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like it would be the widest margin to exist, you know, in that particular competition in the history of the world.
So like it's not just like, oh yeah, Super Bowl. No, like it's not. Can't just easily turn down like $5 billion.
I'm looking for it right now because I don't know the exact quote off the top of my head. But he was asked, Jerry, this I'm making sure here right now. Like recently, like in the last year, about, you know, the salary cap and things like that. And I really don't know if you know this, but he said, you don't want to know the size of the check that I would write to win the Super Bowl. And he said something like, it would be embarrassing. It would be exorbitant. You know what I mean? Like it would be whatever, this and that. Like,
okay.
And people love to throw that quote around. Like when it's, you know, like, I don't know, when Cowboys don't sign insert player here because they wanted too much money. It's like, what did Jerry say? Like he would, you know, and that's why, like, I always think I think it's hilarious every year. And I'm not accusing you of this, but like the mainstream media will be like, well, Jerry will sign him. Jerry will sign everybody. Like, yeah, that was true 20 years ago. That is not who they are anymore. That's a really good question. That's the best question you've come up with. I would love to ask Dak Prescott, how comfortable or how involved were you with the decision to move on from Amari Cooper? Right. And in a weird way, because I trust that Dak that much. If he were to be like, you know what, it was, and this is all hypothetical, to be very clear, but if he were to be like, it was totally my idea, like I wanted it, like I was down for whatever, I would immediately feel so much better about it. You know what I mean? But and I would in the same way feel like so much worse if he was like, I had no idea, like they blindsided me, like it was just crazy. But it's kind of like, sure. You remember when the Saints traded away Jimmy Graham and it was like, Drew Brees is gonna be so pissed. It's like, you think the Saints traded away Jimmy Graham without consulting, you know, Drew Brees first?
Yeah, like surprise. He just wakes up one morning and he's like, oh, yeah, wow.
Like Drew Brees, like, what the hell? Like, what? You know, like, no. And so I would love to know, like, his level of involvement in that. I mean, I don't know if you saw this story, but Dak called Jalen Tolbert ahead of the draft just because there was a possibility that the Cowboys might pick him, and called a few different draft prospects. Obviously, you know, not everyone, you know, was selected by the Cowboys. But so if Dak is that involved, and I'm just purely speculating here, but if he's that involved in the hypothetical drafting of a rookie with a top 100 pick, he is seemingly therefore to like the same sort of degree involved in the departure of what has been his number one wide receiver for the bulk of his time as like this statistically successful franchise quarterback.
I would like the Mark Cooper one. I think that's a good one. Good one by you.
Yeah, it's a great job by me. I would love to know how, I guess I would ask Jerry this, or maybe I would ask Jason Garrett this, maybe Steven. How much of you really thought that Jason Witten was a great football player when you brought him back? And how much of you was just like letting him do it because he wanted to? Like, I would love to know that.
I think when he was gone, they watched the clip of him running without his helmet on. They're like, oh, we got to get that guy. That guy he just knows how to play football, man.
If that game had not happened in Philadelphia, you would hate that clip so much less.
It's not about the clip. It's about just the reaction. Like, oh, wow. Like, this is like incredible. Like, what was he supposed to like do? Like, just stop? I maintain in the middle of the field? Like, that's no. Like, of course he kept running. I've always said that there's nothing to do with toughness. It's just like what any player would do.
I've always said the coolest part about that was just to be able to see like what his face looks like. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
You can't, like that it was like interesting.
That's fair. Yeah.
Right,
I'm not writing on it for that.
Cause like you can't see like all of the head turns that a player makes with their helmet on, like when they're running down the field. So like it was interesting in that sense. But you're right. Like I have never, even in my like, you know, youth, been like, what a beast. Like what he's unafraid. Like you're right. Like the same thing would happen to like any single NFL player. Okay. I
have two more. One of them is really quick.
Go ahead.
Are you unwilling to play Tony Pollard because you gave the contract you did to Ezekiel Elliott? And that's quick.
If we're being strategic, if the truth serum is like wearing off at this point, so like we're worried about it not being accurate, I would love to like phrase that question to Mike McCarthy and say, have you been prohibited? Have you been told to prioritize Ezekiel Elliott over Tony Pollard? That's how I would ask the question.
That's a quick one. That's just not like, this is I'm burning this one question, but I just wanted to throw it in there. And the real one I have is for Mike McCarthy. It is, what percentage chance do you think you're the Cowboys head coach in 2023?
I mean,
There's no way he's like 100%.
But like, I mean, I think he believes
There's
it's
no
100%.
I
think he believes
think
it.
he does. I think he knows the Peyton stuff. He's not like that dumb.
I don't think he's dumb at all. I think he's really intelligent. But
let's get this written down. RJ, Mike McCarthy is smart.
I think you don't make it to the NFL if you don't have some level of intelligence. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think he's like a dunce.
Urban Meyer.
I would love to ask, like, if I'm like stirring. Okay, there's your one example. That's fair. I would love to ask Mike McCarthy, what is Dak Prescott better at than Aaron Rodgers?
Nothing.
Come on, that's Why we've had such harmony.
Like, why? Oh, what's he better? Okay, maybe he's more athletic. Like Aaron Rodgers isn't like that athletic.
Right? I would love to know, like, is Dak Prescott easier to work with than Aaron Rodgers? I think the answer is like obviously yes, but still, like, I would love to hear that. You know what I mean? Okay. I would love to ask Mike McCarthy, kind of like everybody else have asked, like, who do you blame? Who do you blame the most for the circus? Like, you've been in two very different organizations. Like, or maybe not who, but like, what are the problems in your? Because like, look, I understand that like not everybody believes Mike McCarthy is like a great head coach, but he's been through a lot of organizations and worked with a lot of great head coaches and a lot of stable levels of ownership, including not even a level of ownership in Green Bay. And so like, I would love to ask him, like, what are the problems that you identify with the Cowboys organization? I would love to hear that.
If you could pick any owner to report to, who would you pick? That's what I'm asking McCarthy.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Zeke? Do you want to ask Zeke, like, do you think you're better than Tony Pollard? Because that would be a kind of another, like, he might believe it thing, I would love to ask CD, did you, I mean, I think we know the answer, but like, did you really want to wear number 88 or was it forced on you? Do you know this? It was forced on. Like, Jerry had a teammate at Arkansas whose last name was so just making sure you knew. CD wanted to wear 10 that night he was drafted. He told One Fight Through the Fan that he wanted to wear number 10. So
would have been a bad choice. 88 is way better for him.
I don't know, man.
Hashtag jersey number analytics. He's a big receiver. He has to wear 88.
You said he's a big receiver? I think he's really small. Like, I think 10 looks solid on him. You know what I mean? Like,
no. I mean, he's bigger than the usual 10.
I have a better question, or a really good question. I would love to ask Jerry Jones or Stephen Jones or even Mike McCarthy. So like the brain trust here. I would love to ask them. This is truth serum involved here. Did you guys really move on from LP Ladouceur last year because he was going to pass Jason Witten for most games played as a member of the Dallas Cowboys? Because do you really believe that they like in your not trolling mindset? Do you really believe that it's possible that that's why they moved on from him?
Absolutely. How could you not?
Yeah. I mean,
it's a long snapper. Who cares?
Yeah. He'd been around for, at that time, 14 years.
Yeah.
Poof, gone.
You can get another one at like any time.
Okay, my last one. This one's for Jerry specifically. Is the reason that you will not put up curtains so that you can have pretty photos of your stadium like all over the place? Is that the reason? I would love to know that. Because, like, I don't know if he's, like, people, it's a thing now. Like, the other night, Kenny Chesney performed there, and they had curtains. Like, they have curtains up, and so it's like, they have them. They can do it. They do it for other events, but they do not do them for the, like, literal events that the building was designed for.
What do you mean curtains? I don't get, like, what are you talking about?
You know how the sun glare, like, hits at AT&T Stadium in, like, in afternoon games, and, like, it's always, like, a big, crazy glare? So they do have curtains that they put up on those windows for concerts or, like, when they have the Final Four or whatever, like WrestleMania, stuff like that, to, like, create the, like, theater effect. But Jerry has refused to address the idea of putting up curtains for those afternoon games, despite the fact that the sun clearly presents some sort of disadvantage for the team.
You wouldn't ask Jerry anything about Jimmy Johnson?
I mean, I guess. I don't know if you saw
or
this.
Or Jimmy Johnson, anything about Jerry, maybe?
No, I don't think that would be, like, I think it would be more revealing to ask Jerry. I don't know if you saw my tweet last week. I'm going to get it wrong, but DeBrickashaw Ferguson, Nick Mangold, and I'm missing one more, Darrell Rivas, were announced as players who will be entering the New York Jets Ring of Honor this year. Cool, great, awesome, deserving. Nick Mangold, by the way, friend of the SB Nation NFL show. They were all drafted, like their careers began at a point that it was already like embarrassingly late for Jimmy Johnson to not be in the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor. And then they all like lived out their own careers and then retired and reached a point of enough time having passed to where the Jets were like, let's put these players in the Ring of Honor. And I was talking to Stats about this, our buddy, and he was like, look, like it's the Jets. And I agree with that. Like, not every team's Ring of Honor is as prestigious or illustrious as other teams, but the Cowboys is obviously a legit one. I know even you would admit that. But Jimmy, like, and I love the Dallas Cowboys and their Ring of Honor, but like it is nothing compared to the Hall of Fame. No Ring of Honor is, right? And Jimmy has literally been deemed one of the best coaches in NFL history to the point that he's in the Hall of Fame. It's like, I don't even have the word to describe what it is that he's not in the Ring of Honor. Like, it's not embarrassing, it's not sad, it's not pathetic. Like, I don't have the proper word to quantify what it is.
It also is just not even real. Like, obviously, like it's whatever. It's not, but it's like it's not this real. Like it's an event, and whatever. It's like one day. It's like it's not like this. It's really not that big of a lift. Even if you hated him, it's like you just have to swallow your pride for like one day, and then it's fine.
I will never I will never find it not amazing or ironic or crazy or whatever that the night the Eagles like partied at AT&T Stadium in what was then the biggest loss ever handed to the Cowboys at the like palace Jerry Jones built, that was the night that he was celebrated for going into the Hall of Fame. And I like that like deficit has since been outdone. Shout out to the Cowboys, like the margin by which they lost. But that was, correct me if I'm wrong, that was not one of the best like nights of that year for you as an Eagles fan. Right, like
no.
Okay, well, like I mean, it's up there because it was like the Cowboys, right? Like it has to be like in this cool little box, right?
In the moment, it was cool, but looking back, it's like it's not one of the bigger wins. I would say of that season. I would say the Panthers game sticks out more. The Giants game, the Jake Elliott field goal winner sticks out more. The Rams game sticks out more. Like there are games that stick out more.
My point is, it was this it was this exclamation point sort of win for your
second Washington game. I would put above that.
It was this exclamation point sort of win for one of your biggest rivals in a season that they won the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just that it was like to them; it was the year that they won the Super Bowl, and so like,
right. Yes, the context makes it even worse.
Right. That's all I was getting at. But
it wasn't like the Eagles blew out the Cowboys and then they lost in the first round, like the Cowboys do every year. An embarrassing.
I guess if we have to like word the question, I think the question is the reason you are not, or let me rephrase, are you waiting to put Jimmy Johnson in the Ring of Honor until you win a Super Bowl without him to prove that like you're, because that's like what a lot of people believe. That's like the heavy like assumption, presumptive theory about this. And I hated last year when Jerry got all this credit in the lead up to the Hall of Fame celebration when he was like, he's going in, and everybody was like, see, he's doing it. What has he done? Like, he hasn't done anything. Like, it's just, it was such like lame fake cheers for nothing.
He's going to consult with some people. He's like, look, we're just trying to make it happen. We just have to talk to some people. It's
dude,
like you're making the decision. You do it.
This is a good thing to end on because like people bag on them for not signing this free agent or not making this trade or whatever. And they say like they don't want to win because other teams are willing to do these things. You know what? Like those things involve some work and like some factors that are outside of their control. This is literally the like easiest possible thing to do. And not only that, it would achieve so much goodwill with your fans that you have
right.
pissed
What is
off.
the downside?
There is none other than like personal like pissed offness for Jerry if he really is that way. So yeah, it sucks. Thanks for bringing it up.
All right.
Okay. Last thing.
One question you would ask me if you had serum.
Oh.
I'm not gonna actually have to answer it, to be clear.
What is something Blogging the Boys does that you wish Bleeding Green Nation did?
Well, I mean, that's easy. I just, got to get better at the video stuff. That's it.
I would say, I think Bleeding Green Nation's like follow through, and like this extends like the whole Bleeding Green Nation universe is amazing. Like every fan at Bleeding Green Nation, it feels like they live and die with the site. That's an amazing job. Shout out to Bleeding Green Nation, the unicorn, as we like to call them.
Yeah, I think that's part of just Philly too. Like just that speaks to Philadelphia culture.
On the subject of that, Brandon, this is now the proper way to end. I meant to read this review at the beginning of the show. So shout out to everyone who listens, subscribes, leaves a rating, writes a review, and who does the cross review. This comes to us from Billy Felon on the Blog and the Boys podcast network. 5-star rating, left almost a week ago, first day of June, and it is titled Sports Pet Peeve. Remember we talked about pet peeves last week? So here's what Billy wrote. Thought I'd throw my sports pet peeve in the discussion. I can't stand when listing a score and the lower score is listed first. For example, 14 to 24 instead of 24 to 14. That drives me crazy because it makes no sense to list the smaller score first. I see it most often when listing away team first, or if it's a team-specific account, that team is listed first no matter what. But it still doesn't make sense because you wouldn't say out loud, we lost 14 to 24. Anyway, I enjoyed the NFC East Mixtape despite being a loyal yet long-suffering Giants fan. Really like where Shane, and Dable are taking the team. The Shane thing still, difficult to kind of do off the cuff. But what do we think of the pet peeve from Billy?
I think that's fair.
It's a really soccer does it a lot, but because they present things with the home team first. Oh yeah, nil. I mean, whatever. But soccer does that a lot. I agree. Team accounts, don't do that. Let's not do that. Yeah.
Team accounts tweeting, after a bad loss final and the score graphic.
I saw the
at Treblaw thing. Guy on Twitter at Treblaw is always harping on that about how that's always really embarrassing.
The Tigers lost to the Yankees last week, 13-0, 11-0, something like that, and they tweeted something like, "Today's game is over. It did not go well." I love that. Just lean into it. I'm cool with that. That's fine. Do you have a sports pet peeve that you want to share before we leave?
The score thing reminded me of when I think I was little, and my dad taught me that I feel like usually in any kind of graphic with two different team names and there's one on the bottom, that one's always the home team, or that should always be the home team.
Except for soccer teams, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know what's going on in that universe, but I feel like that should be adhered to, and I think it mostly is. But sometimes I'll come across something, and it's not. I'm like, what are we doing here? The home team should always be at the bottom.
I like that. I'm gonna isolate mine to football specifically, and it's something the NFL, I guess, and it's something I have to deal with every year. I have to put out this fire every year. All right, and I know this upsets you, but when the Cowboys play on Thanksgiving, every single Cowboys fan, it feels like, complains. The NFL is making the Cowboys play 3 games in 11 days. First of all, it's not 11 days. You have to count the 12th day. That is the day that they are playing. So it's 3 games in 12 days. First of all, the math is wrong. Second of all, every team has to do this. Every single team. Every single team has to do that when they go from Sunday to Sunday to Thursday. Every single team. I understand your contention that the Cowboys never have to play a road Thursday game. That is actually changing this season. Did you
yes, but there's I think that team there's something in there that kind of gets mitigated. It's the Cowboys are coming off a bye. It's there's something there where it's mitigated still, and it's BS. I forget exactly what it was. I saw someone point that out at one point. It's too deep for me to pull it up, but I will.
I'm making sure. So the week before, no, it's straight up. It's normal. The week before, Dallas has.
There's something
you're right.
to
No,
it.
I'm sorry. The week before, Dallas has Philly, but on Christmas Eve, which is a Saturday.
Right.
So
see, they still get more than usual.
Look, I mean, the Titans are in the same boat. That's the team that Dallas is playing that day, so they have the exact same advantage slash disadvantage. So.
Not really, because it's on the road, and that's
whatever. I hate the complaint that Dallas is the only team that has to play 3 games in 12 days. That's the point that's dumb.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Okay, Brandon, you did it all. You said it all. I did it all. I said it all. Do you feel like you left anything back? Do you feel like you didn't give everything you had to this episode?
I always give. I want to give, RJ.
I used to say that I would give 100%, and then I thought about it, and I some of the things in my life get 100%, but sometimes 50% is enough, and sometimes 63% is enough. But ultimately, I've decided that I've got to give 3% of myself to everything. That's how I live my life. RW3 is just give 3%, and tomorrow give 3% more than you gave today, and then before you know it, you add up those threes and those threes and those threes, and you can't get to 100 because it's not divisible by 3. But if you give 3% more today than you gave yesterday, that's the Russell Wilson way. Broncos country. That's right. Give 3% more tomorrow, Brandon, than you gave today.
Maybe. You can ask me for some final words here.
No, I'm gonna ask you to say the 3 most random words that you can think of, and they have to be independent of one another, and then we say goodbye. Go.
I was going to do something different that tied into what I
do
brought
the
up
thing-
at the top of the show. I think it
do
might
the
be
thing,
better.
Do the thing you want. That's probably better.
Here we stand, worlds apart, hearts broken in two.
That was basically 3 words.